the
It's a Paris
magazine
Chong
between 2008
Show.
2015.
which is
And
a cool magazine,
yeah, it's
black and
coming
gray.
out
I
again.
know I'm very excited to
Yeah.
hear about this. I had dinner after the artist talk with Matt Mercury,
Okay.
who's gonna be helping you
Helping
facilitate
facilitate. He's
that
going to associate publisher, associate producer, whatever you want to call it.
Oh yeah,
Um,
and I said I want to do a letter from the curator and feature an artist
yeah,
every whenever you want me. So
yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry I invited myself to be in your
No, that's
magazine.
it's
Is
perfectly
that
fine.
horrible?
No, because I wanted to do profiles. We were definitely going to have. Well, it started off as uh, yeah, not all photographers, in fact, probably most, um, come from money. So you have to figure out how to make a living,
Did you say not all but most?
but probably not all, but most do not come from money.
Correcto.
Okay. So we have to figure out ways of making a living.
Mhm.
And at the time, I went through a divorce and I had two young children that I had most of the time, and I needed to figure out a way to utilize everything that I was to make something that would A, pay our bills, and B, make sure that I was artistically or whateverly inclined.
Mhm.
Um, when after the divorce, I was hired by a uh, modeling agency to be their digital guy. So my background before that was I was an art director for advertising, and then I became a publicist for comedians. So the first time I met Jeff Garland
Yeah.
was he was like, "I know who you are." The other day, he was like, "I know who you are." It's like, "Yeah, you're following me on my my Substack," and
Yeah.
he's like, "No, no, I remember you from Tom Sobel," and I was like the booker that I was working
That's wild.
a publicist for, and he's like, "Yeah, you put one of my jokes in the newspaper," and I'm like, "Yeah,
Oh, that's really
I
cool. How long ago was that?
probably 15,
See, he remembers how you guys met, and I can't
yeah,
remember how we met, but I know I met
yeah,
you and you
yeah,
came to this thing. Okay, well, that's really cool. And then he
weird,
came up to
right?
you. I love it.
Yeah, and then we talked about other things, and but my original my I have an MFA in poetry.
I love that.
So, and funny enough, avant-garde poetry. So I went to a school called Naropa University, which is a Buddhist college in Colorado. The school within the school was called the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics. No shit, that's
Is
what
it
it was
still there?
called. It is still there.
I like it.
It's supposed to have a 100-year tradition. It was founded by well, the founder of the school is this Tibetan monk named Chogyam Trungpa, who also founded the Shambhala program. A lot of people that know Buddhism would know that program. It's like the peaceful warrior, the
Yeah.
warrior ethos, whatever. But it's also his tradition was crazy wisdom tradition, which is the artistic tradition in Buddhism. And so they in Hinayana and Mahayana Buddhism, there's a path that needs called right speech, and there's also right sight.
Mhm.
Vipassana is right sight. Um, anyway, so right speech, they needed poets because he's like, well, if I'm going to have a school, I need to have people. So he invited people that were interested in Buddhism at the time, which was Allen Ginsberg,
Mhm.
a lot of the Beats, and they named it the Kerouac School because Kerouac had just died a few years before. This was started in '74. I got there in the '90s.
Mhm.
In fact, the first like I ever saw around someone's neck was Allen Ginsberg's big lettered M6, which was only made evidently I found out later from 1987 and 88. And then they didn't do another big lettered M until the M7, which I had for a long time until a couple weeks ago. And so then, well, anyway, so I got this degree in poetry and I was at NYU doing a beat conference.
Oh
They
my gosh.
filmed me and they filmed Alan. They filmed Alan
Mhm.
shooting with his M6. And then the cut in the film is Alan shooting with his M6. And then right afterwards, it says, I'm there, 24 years old, going, it's continuing a tradition. It's continuing a tradition and finding your antecedents. You must look back before you can look forward. Okay. So fast forward a few years, I, worked for this modeling agency, became a photographer by accident.
Mhm.
I'd been shooting for years. Alan actually introduced me to Robert Frank,
Mm.
um, who was one of his best friends, right? I mean, it's like because Robert Frank was, kind of in that beat generation
Mhm.
thing. In fact, I only knew him as a filmmaker because he did a movie called Pull My Daisy that Jack Kerouac had written the voiceover for, and it was just in somebody's apartment in the Lower East Side, and it was Alan and
How
Gregory
amazing you
Corso
got
and all
to
this
meet
other
him.
stuff. Yeah, so I got to meet him. That was '94, and then years later, it kind of came into another kind of thing because I was looking at the Ginsberg archive, and my friend runs it. This guy named well, anyway, Peter Hale, yes, Peter Hale runs it, and I was like, well, Ginsberg was a photographer, so let's like focus on some of his photography. I'm really interested in his India stuff,
Mhm.
and all of this stuff is up at Stanford. So Ginsberg had sold his entire estate except for his camera, and I'll talk about that in a second, to Stanford University. So I had to go up to Stanford. I was from here, go up to Stanford, go into their archives with with my Leica and take pictures of his journals.
Oh, wow.
And then we put the India journals in there, and then we had the photographs that they still had rights to. And it was great. It was really interesting. But then I wanted a sidebar on Leica. So I had contacted, first I had contacted the store. No, first I'd contacted the store.
Mhm.
They gave me, I think it was Kieran or somebody else's number, Roland maybe,
Mhm.
whoever it was at the time, and then they gave me a bunch of technical information, and then they started like kind of throwing things at me. Well, I'd been shooting since that agency thing. I'd been shooting a lot of fashion stuff, so I was really interested in the medium format S.
Mhm.
And finally, I got one in 2017, but that was after. The funny thing is that even though going through all of that, like still didn't really pay as much attention to me except for Wetzlar.
Mhm.
So LFI grabbed me first. You grabbed me second,
Yeah.
and
Usually I'm first.
usually first, but they grabbed me from online, and then I did things with S Magazine, and I did some other
That's cool though. I
things.
know that
Yeah,
matters if Wetzlar notice it,
yeah.
so.
And in fact, they contacted me. I was in one of the M campaigns. There was like the
Mhm.
one that, but I'm always grateful because I'm like, I don't ask. I
Yeah.
don't ask for anything. I've never asked for any equipment. I've never,
Yeah.
I've always paid for everything that I have.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's fine with me. It's like,
It's but you have
the-
to be really super wealthy before you get gifts like that. It's
well, not only
weird.
that,
It's like it's weird like that people get the expensive things when they can buy them, but that's okay,
well,
I
I
guess.
could. And the reason that I could was because of the magazine, and the reason that I could because of the magazine was it brought me into a thing to where I became an agent for 15 years.
Right.
So I was an agent for stylists and photographers in Digitex, and my major client was, and I can say this, can I? I can say who
Yes,
they
you can
were.
say whatever you want on
Okay.
the Paris Chong Show. You
So
can
my
even
major
cuss if you
client,
want to.
okay, my major client was Amazon.
Okay.
Okay.
What is
And
that a dirty word?
it might be in a second.
Uh-oh.
So my major client was Amazon for 15 years, and I started off in
Love Amazon.
their love them too. So started off with their photo studios for Amazon Fashion,
Mhm.
and I at one point had over 600 photographers, stylists, and Digitex hired for Amazon Fashion across 10 different studios in 5 or 6 different states.
Mhm.
Starting off in Kentucky, where I'm from, Southern Indiana, um, New York.
You know, Karen Ballard's also from Kentucky. Did
Oh,
you know
wow.
that? Yeah, she's there
I
for
didn't
her
know that.
birthday. Yeah, Karen's from Kentucky. You need to have a
Wow.
Kentucky
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
It's the Paris Chong Show.